Blessings and peace to you. This is SB Favor Thinking Podcast, and my name is SB Favor. How are you doing today? It is Friday. Thank God it's Friday. It is Friday, May 5th, 2023. Another wonderful day and another day to be thankful. And as I always say, if you focus on what is good, then you can project something good to happen when you focus on what is good. If you are focusing on the things that are not beneficial or the things that are just plain old negative, then what do you think will happen? It's not going to benefit anything. It's not going to manifest anything that is positive. So focus on what is good. I always open the episodes of the podcast stating that because I firmly believe that when you give your energy and you give faith to the things that you want to manifest, it can become your reality versus the thing you don't want to happen. So focus on what is good. If you're out there traveling about on this Friday, make sure you say a prayer. If you are driving and just doing whatever it is you are doing, make sure you say a prayer while you are out there, and use your hand sanitizer. Wash your hands. You got to still practice safety. You know, and I know a lot of people aren't wearing their mask, but if you feel like you need to wear your mask, wear your mask. You don't have to worry about what people think, you know, because we are still living in a time of uncertainty concerning wellness pertaining to what happened in the pandemic. You don't know what can happen, and I don't want to make you think negative, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking a word of wisdom that we do have to, you know, do what we are supposed to do to keep ourselves safe. I always remind you of these things because I care. So keep yourself safe and keep your family members safe. Okay? If you would like to give to the podcast, you can give at Cash App, $SB Favor, or you can give at Venmo at SB Favor. Once again, if you would like to give to the podcast, you can give at Cash App, $SB Favor, or at Venmo. Well, my topic for this episode is dealing with rejection. How do you deal with rejection? Rejection is a common thing. It's something that we all have dealt with at some point in our lives, whether as children or adults, teenagers. Everybody has dealt with rejection on some level or another. But the question is, how do you deal with it? Do you start to doubt yourself? Do you lose your confidence? Do you start to think negative about yourself? How do you deal with it? Well, I would say first and foremost, you have to keep your confidence. You have to keep your confidence because everybody's not going to like you. For the rest of your life, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, everybody is just not going to like you. Some people are going to love you, right? That's automatic because we all are lovable, right? Everybody, you know, has the potential to be loved on higher levels, and you know, of course, God loves us all. But what I'm saying is, everybody's not going to always like you. Not everybody. So dealing with rejection is something we all have to accept, and we have to acknowledge it for what it is. And I know that it can be quite challenging because it affects people in different ways. But rejection is no joke because it can get really, really serious if you haven't grown in certain areas of your life to be able to deal with it appropriately. But I just want to run through some tips pertaining to how to deal with rejection effectively. One, I would say, allow yourself to understand the emotion of rejection, because rejection is considered to be a natural part of life, because as I stated, everybody is not going to like you. Not everybody. We all will come across somebody somewhere that, unfortunately sometimes may not like us. But allow yourself to understand that it's a natural part of life, right? And when you experience rejection, understand that it's a negative emotion. First and foremost, we got to understand that it's a negative emotion. It's a sad emotion, but the most important thing for you to know is that you are not rejected by God. The most important thing for you to know also is that you must and should love yourself, regardless of that emotion, regardless of what you may have experienced pertaining to rejection. When you understand that emotion, when you understand it in the moment, allow yourself to process it, understanding what it is. But don't process it turning on yourself to think that you are the problem. Because as I stated, we live in a world where everybody thinks different on different levels about different things. People have and are entitled to different opinions based upon how they live and where they're from and how they were raised in their background, right? So everybody has a different mindset. And because of that mindset, people will have different perceptions. So people could, unfortunately reject the next person for many reasons, right? So, but like I said, the most important thing is for you to understand what it is, love yourself, and know, of course, that God loves you, right? You got to always remember foundationally that wherever people fall short, you got to know that God will back you up, right? No matter what it is, you got to always remember that. The next tip is reframe the situation. Reframe the situation, meaning that when you are dealing with rejection, don't look at it as if you've done something wrong. Don't look at it as if you're not good enough, but look at it as an opportunity to grow and learn about yourself and about the people that you are dealing with. I mean, you don't have to have a close-up relationship with them to understand what you're dealing with, but just use that moment as a learning and growing opportunity. And ask yourself the question, how can you use the rejection and the experience of the rejection to grow? 3, the next tip is don't take it personally. Don't ever take rejection personally. You must understand your worth. You must understand that you are important. Just because you may not be important to certain people doesn't mean that you are not important to the ones that love you and care for you. But know your worth. That is very important, to know your worth. Know that if you take it personally, it can affect your self-esteem and your confidence. So you can't take it personally. You have to understand, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. Accept it, process it. Don't take it personally. Know your worth. And just understand that it's an opportunity to grow. So my next tip is seek support. Talk about your feelings with friends, family, and don't allow yourself to become isolated to the point where the rejection that you experience allows don't become isolated to the point where you experience rejection and then now you want to just be isolated and the rejection starts to elevate into something else. You don't want to do that. So you want to talk about it. You want to process it. You want to understand what it is. You want to use the rejection as a means to grow, as a means to learn something about you and learn something about the rejection that you are experiencing. Look for constructive feedback. And what I mean by that is, as I stated a minute ago, talking about your feelings and understanding what you're dealing with. Sort it out. And be honest about it. Don't take it personal and think that you've done something. Jesus lived a perfect life, loving everyone all the time. A man without sin, doing nothing wrong, but yet they rejected him, they hated him. Sometimes people are walking with a spirit of rejection based upon something they have gone through, and they could actually project it to you. That's another reason why some people reject others, because they're walking in rejection. Rejection is sadly, it's just a part of life, and we can't allow it to discourage us, but we have to understand that it is an opportunity to grow. It is an opportunity to learn something about yourself. It is an opportunity to learn something about God, because He will empower you through that process of learning about how to walk through rejection. It's an empowerment tool. That's how I look at it, because in times in my life, whether it was socially or professionally or in the church, every time I experienced rejection, I kept telling myself, well, I just have to keep being me, because I can't change for them to like me. And I know some people say, oh, well, it's really not rejection. Kids will be kids when kids play with each other and they don't want to play with, other kids. Well, rejection is rejection. No matter how old someone is, rejection is rejection. I mean, people on all levels and all ages experience rejection. Rejection socially, rejection of a job, rejection professionally. I remember being in high school. I was never the type to have a bunch of females sitting around in a room just gossiping and getting in people's business. I was never that type to just sit around and with a bunch of females and do that. In fact, I hated it. When I saw women just being catty and just sitting around gossiping, that was something I withdrew from, and I just walked solo most of the time when I was in high school. And I realized, because I had certain types of standards in high school, I realized I was being rejected. I was being rejected because of the color of my skin. I was being rejected because of how I spoke, how I walked. I had somebody tell me one time, oh, you walk in the room like you own it. Well, I'm supposed to walk in confidence, right? Or should I walk around with my head down, just acting pitiful, right? So walking in confidence is something that's mandatory for all of us. We have to have confidence, because confidence is a form of self-love, right? But I don't want to talk about that too much. That's a whole nother topic. But rejection is something that we all have to deal with. And if you are rejected from your own family, rejected from the people that you thought you were close to, your friends, that all of a sudden they do about face and they change on you, and all of a sudden they start to reject you, guess what? You can grow through it. You can learn something about it. Sometimes rejection is a detour. I always hear people say, when God allows you to be rejected, He's telling you to go in another direction. I believe that to be very true. I believe that to be very true because in my life personally, I have done that. When I was rejected in the church, different groups or people that didn't want to be bothered with me, I said, okay, well, let me go another direction. And to be quite honest, I know somebody out there might be thinking, well, rejection is painful. Yes, indeed, it is painful. When I was rejected, did I drop a tear? Was I sad? Oh, yes, absolutely. But as you grow through the process, as you grow and learn about who you are, who God is, and learning about your worth, learning about your value, and not taking it personal, but walking through the process to understand something about who you are. Then, when you are rejected, it just goes right over your head because you understand. It's okay. They just doing whatever they're doing for whatever reason. It ain't for me to figure it out. I just got to keep on keeping on. Right? You got to keep your confidence. You got to keep your focus, and you just got to keep it moving. You can't sit in a corner and say, oh, why are they rejecting me? Why? No, you can't do that. You have to understand that you are important. You have to understand that you have worth, you have value, and you have a purpose. God has created you in a unique way. And as I stated earlier, everybody's not going to like you. Some people will adore you, love you, but then there will be some that will just not like you. And when you experience it, you have to accept it. Don't take it personal and become bitter. Oh, they don't like me. Oh, well, I don't like them either. No, that's the wrong reaction. If you are experiencing rejection and you understand in that very moment that you are experiencing rejection, accept it. Accept it. Process the thoughts about it. Walk through it. Don't take it personal. And just understand in that moment, it's not about you. It's happening for a reason. But it's not about you. Don't think something is wrong with you. There was nothing wrong with Jesus, and they rejected him. So, to get to the point of it all, how to effectively walk through rejection is a way to grow. It's a path to grow. Understand that it is a path to grow. To effectively walk through rejection, understand that it is a path to grow. Understand that. And as you process it and understand it, then you will be empowered through it. People are rejected by their friends, their family. People are rejected in romantic relationships. And yes, it can be painful. But just understand that through your rejection, you have to use it to be empowered. You have to remember that. Because it's something that all have to deal with. Because it's a part of life. It's not a good thing, of course, but it's a part of life. And when you have to deal with it, you can deal with it with power. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to feel bad. You don't have to conform to something to be loved, liked, or accepted. People experience rejection in so many different ways. If you are one of those people and you're sitting around just thinking about all kind of thoughts pertaining to rejection, that's not healthy. Because if you're thinking somebody rejected you or they are rejecting you and they're not, you could be just having thoughts of rejection for no reason. That's why it's so important to maintenance your thought life, because if you are not maintaining your thought life and you are having the wrong thoughts, now that type of person, they start projecting rejection. They start creating rejection with their own thoughts. If you're sitting around and you're thinking, they're rejecting me, they're rejecting me, they're rejecting me. Well, then now you're creating a spirit of rejection. You're creating an energy of rejection if you are sitting around thinking about being rejected all the time. So maintaining your thoughts, being confident, being clear with yourself, and understanding that when you are confronted with rejection, deal with it positively. Don't deal with it tit for tat, but deal with it positively. And what I mean by that is you deal with it by choosing to walk in healing. And you walk in healing according to how you think. And how you think, you will be able to process it so that you can walk in healing. Yes, you can do that. I know for some people, all of us are on different levels when it comes to our intellect and our spirit and our background and all those different things. And I know, unfortunately, for some, to experience rejection, it would be so painful if they experienced it from someone that they love dearly, or if they experienced it for the first time. I understand all of that. I totally get it, because the first time I realized and understood I was being rejected, I was like a little baby. I had tears in my eyes. I cried out to God. It was very painful. And I can talk about it honestly because I can identify with it to share it just as it happened. Because I processed my thoughts and I processed what actually happened. And once I sorted it all out, I was able to understand what actually happened. So when you go through something like that, when you are rejected or when you experience rejection, make sure you understand it's an opportunity to be empowered. Use it as an opportunity to grow and learn something about yourself. And as I stated, you could be rejected for many, many reasons. Many reasons. You could be rejected socially, professionally. You could be rejected by your family. You could all of a sudden experience rejection with someone that you've known for more than 10 years. Because it could just happen at any time. But whenever it happens, just know that God will back you up. Just turn to Him. There's a lot of people in the entertainment industry that have auditioned for all kinds of shows and all types of music shows or whatever they were auditioning for. They were told no. And I've heard many celebrities say, they were rejected. They had to understand how to deal with rejection. Musicians and writers and artists and people in the entertainment field, they deal with rejection every single day. Imagine somebody telling you no for 20 years. 20 years, and then all of a sudden, the door is torn down, and all of a sudden, the thing that you prayed for, you receive it, and there's no more rejection anymore. So all of those no's turned into a great success of yes, because God said yes. So I hope that what I'm saying to you helps you to think, and it helps you to be inspired to know that rejection is not always a bad thing. It can be painful, it can be uncomfortable, and yes, it is something that we all have to deal with, but it's also a position to be empowered. So understand, when you experience rejection, no matter where it comes from or who it is or how it happens, please understand it is the position to be empowered. And if it is painful, pray about it and walk through it. But understand, it's a powerful position. Jesus walked through rejection. And he wasn't powerless, he was powerful. And still is today. And that's what God wants you to be. He wants you to be powerful. So thank you so much for tuning in to listen to SB Favorite Thinking Podcast. I appreciate you so much for just supporting this podcast. If you would like to give to the podcast, please give at Cash App at SB Favor, $SB Favor, or you could give at Venmo at SB Favor. I appreciate you listeners so much, and please continue to support this podcast. There's so much that I would like to do, but I need your support. So continue to share this podcast and support the podcast constantly, okay? Support it constantly, non-stopping. So thank you so much for listening. And if you need to reach me, you can reach me at sbfavor@yahoo.com via email. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SBFavor. I also have a TikTok handle at SBFavor. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click like, leave me some feedback, and share this podcast with others. You can subscribe to me wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm on most networks. If you are comfortable with a certain network that you listen to more often, just Google SB Favorite Thinking Podcast and you will find me somewhere. Share this podcast with others. I appreciate you so much, listeners. And once again, if you would like to give to the podcast, you can give at Cash App, $SB Favor, or at Venmo at SB Favor. Thank you so much for listening. You have a good day.